In this video, I'm going to talk about the difference between roadblocks and constraints and how you steer around constraints. Have you ever heard a trade partner use the Tact production system and get frustrated because they say, I'm supposed to go into the zone, it's not ready, what do you want me to do? And then you spiral out of chaos? Well, if you've ever had that happen, I'm going to tell you why it's happening. So let me go ahead and flip over here, go over here to my flip chart, and I'm going to explain a couple of things that always make Tact fail. But the interesting thing is, even when it fails, you finish on time. And it's so much better than traditional CPM scheduling. But fail, in my sense of the word, means that you're not using it to its full potential. So, and actually, let me just get specific here. So if you want to not do well, if you want to fail with Tact, you should not hold to a 5-day Tact time, okay? So I want to write it out in front of you so that it sticks. If you ever hear a scheduler or a consultant or a company that says, hey, we do all of our Tact plans on 5-day Tact times, you automatically know they have no idea what they're talking about. So the reason is if you have a 5-day Tact time, okay, and you're using the weekends as your drumbeat, first of all, just by having the Saturday and Sunday in your schedule, you're using that as a potential buffer, and you're going to overburden people and you're going to hurt people. But here's what happens. If you have a wagon that's supposed to happen in a 5-day Tact time and it's planned as a 5-day Tact time, even if you have a bit of a buffer in there, if you have a delay, then the next week you are going to not only have to have those 5 days, but you're going to have to work inside that Saturday. Let's say that you have another little bit of a delay, or let's say the crew isn't producing the way you wanted. You're going to have to work Saturday and Sunday. And then what happens is if you go too far and there's another delay, and it could even happen all the way back here, you'll need the 5 days plus some time into the next week. And now automatically you've gotten off rhythm. And here on that Monday, your trade partner will say, hey, I'm supposed to be in this zone. They're supposed to be out. What's wrong? Tact doesn't work. So sticking to a 5-day Tact time is a big no for me. We do 5-day Tact times in the macro level plans for visualization, but once you have your trade partners and you're in the norm, you'll almost never be on a 5-day Tact time, and you will never, ever, 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 ever use the weekends as your Tact time drumbeat. Ever, ever. You will never use that. You will never use the weekends as a buffer. Ever, ever. The other thing that people get into trouble with when they're using Tact is if inside their wagons, they're not willing to combine different work packages or take large work packages, right, and split them up into different wagons. This kind of leveling is crucial to the Tact production system. The other thing in the Tact production system that you have to have is you have to have buffers. All schedules must have buffers at the end. So you will fail with Tact if you hold to a 5-day Tact time, if you use the weekends as drum beats, if you don't combine and separate to level your work packages, and if you don't have buffers. So these are the main things that will lead you into failing. But another one is the improper use or identification and management of constraints. So let me show you that now. I like to look at a project as zones, which I think everybody would. So if I said, hey, do we break out projects as zones? And somebody would be like, yeah, absolutely. We break them out into zones. And then if I said, hey, we typically take trade partners 1, 2, and 3, we put them in sequence, right? And we run them through these zones. What would you say? You'd be like, yeah, that's actually how construction works. I'm totally on board. Well, this gives us a really nice analogy of a train. This is my version of a train, right? going across the tracks, right? So your zones are your train tracks, and your trades are your train. And the thing that keeps this train going well is the distance between the wagons, the speed that it's going, okay, the fact that the tracks are clear out ahead. These are the things that make it work. So in lean thinking and construction, anything out in the front that would slow down your train is called a roadblock, okay? And it just needs to move. Or if it's a cow, let me see if I can do a cow. Yep, moo, that's a, that's a horrible cow. But anyway, the cow just needs to move. Roadblocks just need to move. But constraints, okay, are things that limit the train, or would be something like a mountain that you had to steer your tracks around. So roadblocks are the things on the track that need to move. Constraints are things that are permanent that you have to move around, and components or items or levers that you pull as a part of the train to make it go faster. So the reason I'm talking about this is because there's a huge problem with takt planning that people will have if they don't do it right. Let's say that you have zone number 1, 2, 3. Now let's say maybe it's 4, 5, 6, 7, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. If your trades are coming through here, these zones, and there's like a bunk of plywood in the way, what is that? That's a roadblock. That's just something that we can move, right? Not a big deal. But what about the elevator front that's not going to be done until they get there? What about the loading zone over here with the hoist that disengages 2 or 3 rooms? What about the exterior curtain wall that's not here on the end? These are not roadblocks. They're not going to magically move out of the way. These are actually constraints, okay? So I'm just going to write this down. Constraint. By the way, I am using the term right. The industry is using this term wrong. They say roadblocks are constraints and constraints are roadblocks. Roadblocks are things that can be moved out ahead. Constraints are things that constrain you, that fix you, that will adjust how you move through the building. So if you tell a trade partner, and let me do this with a blue marker, hey, it's fine, go ahead and do your work, come into zone number 1, great, and then zone number 2. As soon as that trade partner sees, hey, these 5 or 6 rooms in the front are not ready for me, takt doesn't work, you're going to have a problem. So the way to do this is to say no. This is a roadblock and identify it as such, but these rooms and the front of it is a constraint. The hoist is a constraint. The exterior curtain wall not being on time is a constraint. The storm drain that comes down through a chase that's not buttoned up is a constraint. So what you have to do, and I'll mark it with a light blue, is you have to explain the trades should go through the roadblock because it's removed, but they need to work around the constraints, right? And then somebody would say to me, okay, well, J Money, I love that, but now that you've moved around them, what are you going to do with these open areas? It's just a fact that most buildings have comeback areas. So if this was your original flow, your trades are going to have to, when all of these come together, come through and do your elevator and your hoist leave out, and then this portion, and then up here, and there's going to be a second pass, okay? And one of the things that I get really annoyed about is that we as construction professionals don't often enough show the first and the second pass in pre-construction. And so our trade partners don't know there's a first pass and a second pass. They don't know that there's comeback rooms. When historically, most buildings, especially high-rises, or any building that has a hoist, or any building that has a tower crane in the middle of the building, or that has elevators, will have comeback rooms. And it's just a part of doing construction. So instead of just hoping that it doesn't happen, or that we can just work around it, or that we can just wing it, let's identify these constraints early on and make sure the trade partners can visually see that they need to move around them. and that they know the difference between a roadblock and a constraint, and that they keep their eye focused on removing roadblocks, and they keep their eye on moving around constraints or doing their best with them, and then coming back once they're finally ready. If you don't do this, your trade partners are going to get frustrated. So if you want to fail with Tact, stick with a 5-day Tact time. Use the weekends as your drumbeat. Don't level your trades into your Tact wagons. Don't put buffers. Don't involve the builders. Don't align procurement. Don't make work ready. And definitely, if you want to fail, do not be clear about what constraints and roadblocks are, and do not move trades around them. Just send your trade partner right into that. Let them get frustrated. They'll throw their hands up and quit. So if you want to fail, definitely do not do what I just told you. But if you want to succeed, always adjust your 5-day Tact time. Never use the weekends. Make sure that you are packaging and leveling your zones and your trades. Make sure that you have buffers, that you're involving the builders, that you're aligning procurement, that you're planning the work, and always, always, always know the difference between constraints and roadblocks. Show them and send your trades around them so they don't get demoralized, and pick them up in your second pass once they're ready. If you need help with tax steering and control on your projects, send us in. We help teams with pull planning, look ahead plans, weekly work plans, day planning. We teach foremen the simulations. We help manage your schedules, recover delays. I love working with clients. If you ever need help, please let us know. I hope you've enjoyed this video. On we go.